Hello and welcome to the Landscaper Growth Show. My name's Mark. I am the host. Today I'm speaking with Gregg Rosenfield at Pristine Landscaping in San Antonio. Gregg, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit earlier. Had a hoot talking. Really excited to hear, what you're up to, your business journey here with Pristine. But I'd love to start just to hear what services Pristine provides for its customers in San Antonio.
Sure. Yeah. We're a typical design build company. We have a wonderful group of truly professional artists that, do outdoor, just outdoor makeovers, and all our guys are masons. So Manuel, he's the guy who hires everybody, and he's really good. I originally found him. He was a mason, and I cross trained him into like plants, mulch, materials, and stuff. Of course, he was like very uncomfortable with it at the beginning, but now he knows way more than I do. He's very so
That's great.
Yeah, we know. I mean, if you could do great masonry work, you could do almost anything. So anything from, plants, mulch, materials, pergolas, outdoor kitchens, patios, rock walls, drainage, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took a look at a lot of your photos over on your website, which, by the way, is Pristine Landscaping SA, like San Antonio, pristinelandscapingsa.com. Took a look over there at some photos. It's such a great header you have there. There's just like 5 or 7 just great photos of the work that you guys do, kind of scrolling through.
Yeah.
I just love that kind of layout and photos of the work. What percentage of the work, is it all residential?
No, we do commercial work as well. It's kind of interesting. I was bidding on some commercial properties and stuff, and at first they're like, you're too expensive. First time, second time, third time, same thing. Then I was talking to one of the irrigators on the property. They said, they kicked off the landscaper. And then, I said, okay, I'm going to bid again. And finally, I think they just got so sick and tired of cheap people that didn't show up, and they called them. It's like, we're ready for you now. They didn't show up, or their work was terrible. And I think, sometimes it takes a little bit of nudging to get people to the point where like, yeah, it's worth the extra money. This quality is good. Plus, they don't want the headaches. Nobody does,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. How many people are on the team right now?
Well, okay. So Manuel is the guy who runs the crews, and we have a core group of 6. He can get as many as he needs to. The old expression, guys can get guys.
Yeah.
All our guys most of them are from Guanajuato, Mexico. And
beautiful city.
What's that?
Beautiful city. I've spent a lot of time in Guanajuato.
It is. It really is. Yeah. And I'm not just saying this, but these guys are just true gentlemen, and they're just wonderful guys, good family men and stuff. And then we have a guy, Alfred, who is our customer service or customer success person. I do the sales. We just hired a new salesperson. So eventually I'm going to transition out. And this guy, Chris, he's going to be coming in. And then we have our CEO who purchased the company. And it's actually 2 brothers, but one of them, they own a lot of businesses. And one of the brothers is like, his job is this company. So I think they split up. They each have like 4 or 5 companies they run. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Amazing. Fantastic. Well, I'd love to talk about that a little bit, Gregg. Actually, you've run the company, it looks like, when did you start the company?
I actually started it in 2007. I was in the corporate world, worked for Clear Channel, one of their divisions called Primetime. I managed and ran like 25 newspapers, magazines, and all the physical properties and printing presses and stuff. Just salespeople. We had 70 salespeople. It was a pretty decent sized operation.
Wow.
We got bought out. I got a contract to go to another company, Hearst. I just chose not to after being, they were kind of the enemy for so long. I just decided, I
Can't go work for the enemy after 25 years in the industry.
it was 26 years, but yeah, you're right. I couldn't do it,
Oh, hilarious.
So, yeah. And then I think about 5 or 6 years into it, a friend of mine who is a pretty well-known executive asked if I was willing to start up a media company again and he would help fund it. So we did that. We got an exit. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't like to sit around. So back about 3.5 years ago into the business. And then I was approached by a broker. I guess there were people who were interested in purchasing the business. And they went through the diligence process. It wasn't a very difficult diligence. I mean, this isn't a huge, sophisticated operation. And then we closed on October 15th of 2025. And I've been helping them transition since. So it's been a good learning experience.
That is great. Amazing, interesting, helpful information here, Gregg. If I'm curious about this process, like a lot of landscapers, they started their business, they've run it for however long, they're thinking about, what could I get? How do I sell this? What's all involved in that? Do I want to sell? I mean, what is that sort of, if you're willing to share, and appreciate you're sharing some details here to whatever extent feels comfortable. What is that sort of due diligence phase? Okay, so I've been running my landscaping company for 5 years. The books are pretty clean, right? And someone comes along and says, I'd like to buy it. What is the process then after that?
I guess, the process I know I would take, but the process I assume they took is going through and just proving everything that I put out was real. So going through, the W-2s, bank statements, just proving the revenue was there, checking our reviews, just all the things you need to do to make sure that you're buying a real company. It's very interesting. I hired a consultant, a green industry guy, Mr. Houston. I forgot his first name. Was it Ron or Jim Houston? And as a matter of fact, he just passed away, a fine man. And he used to give me a lot of free advice. And so when he'd come through town, I felt obligated to, give him a gig, because, anyway, but he said, look, very hard for design build companies like yours. You don't have recurring revenue to sell. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just run it and make the most of it, or maybe try to find somebody I could mentor and have the income being a little bit more passive. But when this broker came to me, I was like, sure, I'll entertain it. I'll entertain anything. And so far it's, look, there's definitely been hiccups and stuff to iron out, but overall, would I do it again? Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Interesting. The recurring revenue is that important of a piece to a business buyer that is that still what you believe is what Jim's advice? What is without recurring revenue, the value is sort of lower, and with recurring revenue, the value is higher to a buyer.
Yeah. So for the people listening that are in the industry, I always, I work for a gentleman who was a self-made billionaire, Harvard MBA and stuff. And he used to always say, when you start a business, think of your exit before you even start it. And so, one of the things I would, and I probably should have listened to him more, at least he told me that too. But I chose this business not for so much like financial. It was because I love the industry and it's a good lifestyle business. The reason why I sold it was as I'm getting older and my grandchildren are spread out all over the place from Boston to Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm landlocked with this business. So I just decided, I think it's time that I give myself some freedom and look at some other opportunities. But yeah, recurring revenue is really important. If you look at, cash flow multiples of businesses that have recurring revenue, like people that have some type of service component, or they do, weed control, fertilization, or even like pest control. Those businesses have much higher multiples. Their multiples are usually 7x. And, a landscape company, a design build company, you're very fortunate if you can get like 3x, for a cash flow multiple. And I that's kind of where I was at. I was in the 3x range.
That's awesome, Greg. And can we just clarify? I mean, there's net profit, gross profit, sort of gross margin, which is after cost of goods. That number, that multiple, that 3 or 7x multiple, could you clarify specifically what kind of line item that would be? I mean, you say the cash flow. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes people, they feel like, oh, my net profit was really good, but the problem is they're not generating cash. I mean, it's all on the balance sheet, and it's not cash in the pocket. What people want to look at is like, how much cash did this generate? It's not about like, okay, I could depreciate this, I could amortize this. Here's a write-off here. Those things are good, but they don't necessarily put cash in your pocket. So I think what investors, particularly PE, private equity, looks at is, not net profit, but SDE, like sellers discretionary earnings, or more than anything, like, are you generating cash? What kind of cash are you taking out of the business? So
Really helpful. Really helpful. Fantastic. Well, Greg, I mean, how long? And then again, not looking for exact specifics, but often a component of selling a business is, call it earnout, right? And so this is where I might sell my business. I've had my business going these years. They come in, they do the due diligence, looking at, how, cash is generated, the multiple of that. And they may want me as the CEO, past seller, past owner of the business, to be a part of the new business for some amount of, certainly months. In some cases, it could be 2 to 3, 4 years. Any thoughts about kind of the earnout component and how kind of how someone should approach that and what they should kind of hope for? It's that maybe their expectations for if they get to that stage.
Yeah, I think depending on the cycle we're in for like the economy, the nature of the kind of business model you have in the green industry. Yeah, I think an earnout is important because like a lot of times like these investors, they know I have skin in the game, so it's in my best interest to make sure this thing is perpetuated. So we did about half and half up front and then half over 5 years. Yeah. Now, I didn't expect them to do a personal guarantee, which, I knew that wasn't going to happen because, I know I wouldn't have done that. But I think it was a very, very fair, generous offer. I've gone way above and beyond to make sure and prove to them that they made a really wise, prudent decision in terms of buying this company. They did want Manuel to sign a non-compete, but that was a non-starter. I was like, no. And they, why? And I said, because what if you don't have work for him? He's got to be able to do his own work. And what if what if he doesn't like it here? I mean, what we did is we did like incentives for him to stay. And then if he did leave, we have what's called clawbacks. In other words, let's just say he left, but then I would be penalized. But if he left, but I still was able to hit my metrics, or the company was able to hit the metrics, then it's like, what do they care? So I get what's called a clawback. And in other words, that money would come back to me that I'd lose. So, which is really fair, and these guys were very good about that in terms of, being fair. I think the main reason they bought the company was, I'm not plugging myself, but if it were me and I could choose any landscaping company to do my home, I would choose Pristine Landscaping in a heartbeat, because our work is just absolutely impeccable. I mean, everything is first class, from the materials we use. And, Manuel is an artist. I mean, his water features, we don't have to outsource anything. We want to, like weld something out of steel. We could do that. Outdoor kitchens. I mean, all our guys are masons, and they know their plants. They're not, these guys don't put a plant that's supposed to go in the sun in the shade, or vice versa. If I say, hey, give me a salvia Gregg, would you please bring it over here? They're not going to bring me a salvia leucantha. So that's what makes these guys so good, and they show up every day. The other thing with us is, once we get on a property, we don't get on, get off, go somewhere else. We're on, we stay there till we're completely done. So,
Love it.
You still get your crazy clients too, though. You know what I mean? That
sure.
You can't please, no matter what you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking a look here at your stuff. You guys have got just a ton of, high 60s reviews, like 5 stars, just like nailing it. I like actually read in some of the reviews, mentioned you, some other people on the team by name. Clearly doing amazing work. And like I say, folks, if you're listening to this, we'll give the website here in a minute, but go take a look, because it's just great to see. I mean, Gregg and I had talked earlier. He's also a professional, in kind of like web design, that kind of space. He knows how to make things look good. And just the look of the site itself is beautiful. It's a great example of just well laid out photography right up front, so people can see it. It shows the work, and the work's impeccable. Love that outdoor hardscaping, kind of outdoor living work. That is just glorious. Fantastic, Gregg. I'm so grateful for you to come on the show. I'm grateful to the current owners with Pristine Landscaping, guys. Thank you for allowing this, interview to happen, and really excited to just kind of follow you guys' journey here over the next year. If folks are in San Antonio looking for a great landscaping, hardscaping company to work with, what are the best ways to get in touch with you guys?
I would go to Pristine Landscaping SA, like sanantonio.com. I don't really know all our handles and stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah. But that's probably the best way. And then they could reach out to me, fill out a form. We get back to people immediately. The one other thing I want to throw out there as something that I feel is really important is, we almost always do a plan. And okay. I believe if a client, like if someone says, I want a patio right there, we're not going to do a plan. They're like, I want this bed like this. I want this bed this way, and, a pathway here and granite there and all that stuff. And, we insist on a plan, because I think a great plan is the start of really, something special. But guys, I love this business so much. And I think the people who are listening to this that are in the green industry, you're very blessed to be in an industry where you can really make a difference, because you're beautifying the world. And I love selling landscaping. And, you know, I came from the corporate world where we had 8,000 clients, you know, and I couldn't make a difference. And, you know, I just really like that. And for the people who are in it, you know, I know sometimes it gets tough trying to like land jobs and please clients, but sometimes stop and smell the roses, because it really is a wonderful business.
I love that, man. That's the good word. Fantastic, Greg. Thank you again for coming on the show today. So happy to have you here.
Thank you.